How do you feel? Greetings, friends. It's Josh.
And Daniel.
And we're back for another exciting episode of the Dead Tired Dads podcast, which is a podcast for gamers who don't have time to game. Daniel's back with us today. I'm glad to have Daniel here with us for 2 episodes in a row. Like, that's crazy. Crazy talk.
Yeah, I think I figured something out with my life or something like that.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. As Will Ferrell said.
I told you not to take this. I didn't. I handed them to him. Let's be real here.
It's true. I'm going to get that phone. It's a bit of an inside joke on that one.
Oh. Boy, is it.
Oh, man. So, yeah, it's another exciting episode. It's July, so there's been some stuff going on in the month. 4th of July, and so far has come and gone, and there have been other things that have happened. I don't know what those things are because I don't pay any attention to anything that's going on in the world outside of my, little sphere of influence.
But good job, America. You did it. You're another year older.
Congratulations. Happy birthday, America. How long is that going to last? We'll not get into that.
We'll find out next year.
Anyway, moving right along. Speaking of things that don't last, streaming services are all of the rage these days. There seems to be more and more every single time you turn around. There's another streaming service that's being launched.
Josh, it sounds like you have some rage about streaming services.
I do, in fact, have some rage about streaming services. So here's the thing. When Netflix first came out, when they were just sending you DVDs in the mail, when that's all they did was send you DVDs.
I miss Netflix DVD.
I know, right? It was amazing. But you had a queue. You had a list of movies that you had lined up. So you would make your list of movies that you wanted to watch. And you would get your movie, you would get one, you'd send it back, and they just send you the next one on your list.
And it was really fast.
Yeah, it was
next
great.
Day delivery.
It was great.
It was amazing.
So they continued that trend in their, once they started streaming and they started developing apps and these things are now built into your TV, you didn't have the queue necessarily, but you had your list, the things that you wanted to watch. Mm-hmm. And that was always up kind of at the top or number 2. So it was either, your list or continue watching. Those were the 2 things that were at the top of the page. Something that I've noticed with streaming sites lately, that list is getting buried underneath millions of recommendations. So rather than being able to follow through and oh yeah, I've got all of these things that I want to watch, they are forcing things on you that are new things that you'll then add to your list and never get to the things that you're actually saying that you want to watch. It's just you're being inundated with content. This is especially true with HBO. With Max, as they call it now.
Sounds like a jerk.
Oh gosh, I'm so frustrated with this.
Josh does not like Max.
I do actually. Max has a lot of really great content.
I feel like Max wears polos and just polos. I don't think this is a different Max.
Yeah, no, yes, this is a different Max. HBO Max, in fact. But anyway. Max has the rights to Game of Thrones, which is fine. Mm-hmm. I don't like Game of Thrones. Ryan likes Game of Thrones. I don't know if he's watched the series, but I know he's read the books. Anyway, so they have recently come out with a new series called House of the Dragon, which is, I guess it's a prequel to what goes on in the Game of Thrones books. But they really, really, really want me to watch this show that I have absolutely 0% interest in. So every time I log on to Max, there's a big banner at the top advertising it. Then I scroll down. There is a recommendation for me to watch House of the Dragon. Then I scroll down. There is another banner for me to watch House of the Dragon. And then there is my continue watching. I have to scroll through 6 things. to get to my continue watching. I just want to watch ER. Is that too much to ask? Apparently so.
Josh is having to work really hard to find Batman right now.
I am so freaking upset. Like, it's so frustrating.
It is funny that you bring that up because Amazon Prime was doing something similar to what Polo Max is doing. And like this was right after our most recent child was born, and I'm sitting there in a chair with a child rocking, just with that TV playing, because it's 2 a.m. What else am I going to be doing while I'm in a chair trying to get an infant to sleep? And it wasn't even my Amazon Prime account. It was my wife's profile, and for whatever reason, they kept showing me Jack Reacher ads, trying to get me to watch Jack Reacher, and I'm like, one, I wasn't awake enough to have that decision be made. Like, not happening. But I'm starting to think that like the streaming services got some numbers, and they're like, hey, you know what the male equivalent of like trashy romance novels is? Trashy spy films.
But like, I just don't understand. Like, I get it. Like, you've got a new show you spent millions of dollars producing and making. You want people to watch. But shouldn't you... Like, I have not shown any interest in Game of Thrones. Not even once. Not even once. Like, why would you risk alienating someone by just forcing something down their throat with such just absolute overkill?
Killing, yes. There is something that's really broken about the streaming services, though, because just thinking about the production, they end up canceling so many shows that are really loved by maybe a small contingent of fans, because these projects are just money sinkholes.
Oh, for sure.
And it doesn't correlate to what they get from new sign-ons and maintain subscriptions for this. Like, it just the math doesn't math.
No, it does not.
And I don't understand why they think they can just keep dropping hundreds of millions of dollars in production value on these things and expect that be a financially sound decision for their stakeholders. Like, whether they're a subscriber or a stockholder or an employee, none of these stakeholders have anything to gain by like trying to fail. Because if I'm remembering correctly, I never watched Wednesday, but I remember when Wednesday was canceled, it was like, well, we just didn't have enough views to justify doing this.
Was Wednesday I thought they announced a season 2 of Wednesday.
Okay, well, let me
get the research department on that one. But I enjoyed the Wednesday series. I thought it was actually pretty, it was a creative take on the series, on, the Addams family that honored the history of the Addams. Unlike so many things that come out these days that don't take seriously the source content, and don't care about the source content. They just want to make something that's in their image.
Oh yeah, I was totally wrong. It was renewed for a season 2.
Yeah.
Thank you to our research department. Our hard-working, unpaid interns do their job well.
They do their jobs very well. Thank you, research department. But yeah, that's But to your point though, like there are series that like, I mean, Disney has created and canceled series and then completely pulled them off of their platform. The Willow series that they came out with that had so much, like, there was so much force behind it and so much going behind it, and then they were just like, oh, this did really bad, we're not going to make another season, we're just going to forget that it existed and just yank it off the platform, and bury it. What is that? That's, I mean, but no, they're just, it is insane how much money they are spending, and you're absolutely right. There is not there's not that much justification for it. I tell you who wins though.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Space
Who
Force.
wins? It was
Oh.
Space Force was canceled.
Space Force was the one. Yes, I see. Our research department is scrolling through, and I see what they're seeing. So, yes, and Space Force was actually a very funny show. I enjoyed that show a lot.
Broke my heart.
It was a very funny show.
Oh man, who's losing, Josh?
But who's winning?
Who's winning?
The people who are winning are the actors and the directors of these series.
You know,
like they're the only
fair.
They are the only ones who are winning because they get name recognition, out there for
their resumes built. They get paid.
They get paid a ton of money to because someone's getting those billions of dollars that are being spent on the content that gets canceled, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Like, to me, I don't know how much longer they can continue to do what they're doing. Although Max has this thing going for it where they have so much old content. Like, they've got like the shows that people love from the night. Like, they've got The Friends. They've got ER and all these other shows that like had really big followings when they came out. And people who loved it, and shows that went on for 10 plus years. And I think that's what kind of Paramount Plus is kind of counting on, is that we've got all of our old shows.
Yeah,
and,
come reminisce with us.
Peacock is counting on that, and counting on ad revenue from
The Office mostly.
Yeah, from people who are not who are willing to pay a subscription but not pay necessarily for the non-subscription, for the non-ad. They'll get money from ads and things like that. So
this is a recurring problem we keep circling back to of, if you can't hold it, you don't own it.
Oh, for sure.
But I think that just like we needed a pivot away from cable and from like the way that TV subscriptions worked prior to Netflix kind of breaking things and murdering Blockbuster, rest in peace. Fandango's Vudu actually is a very interesting alternative in that it's pretty much all a la carte. You're getting exactly the things that you're interested in, and we probably get as many items on through Fandango as we do through our streaming services, just because hey, that's where we keep the stash. It's
right.
It's where the good stuff is.
Yeah, no, I have quite the collection. And one of the things that I do appreciate about Fandango's / what used to be known as Vudu, that's now Fandango at Home, I think they changed it to. There is a movie, and I may have talked about this before, but it would have been a long time ago. There's a movie called Who's Minding the Mint that came out in 1969. It's a really old film. That you cannot get on DVD.
Fascinating.
It is not available on DVD. I have a VHS copy of this film. That is how I have it. But I love this movie. I watched it recently with my kids. It's a really funny movie about this guy who works at the U.S. Mint and who accidentally steals $50,000 and dumps it down his garbage disposal, and he has to replace it without anyone finding out, because he's gonna, because he'd go to jail if you walk out of the U.S. Mint with $50,000. The assumption is that you stole it intentionally, and you are going to federal prison for a long time.
Typically, how those things go, or you get to be a consultant, whatever.
Whatever. But so it plays out that he's got someone who's going to help him, but to get in, he has to they have to break into a safe to get the plate, so they have to get someone who's a safe cracker, so they get someone out of jail. But he's deaf because he's been working in the plate factory of the jail, and it's really loud in there, and so he's gone deaf from working in there, so he has to get a hearing aid. So they go to a pawn shop to get him a hearing aid, and the guy who's running the pawn shop is like, hey, you can't take this until you pay me, and they're like, we don't have the money for it right now, but we will in a couple weeks. And he's like, wait a second, what's going on? And so he gets looped in the deal, and then they find out that that they're going to go in through the sewers to break in, and it just becomes this thing where they keep adding more and more people, and it's just a hilarious set of circumstances that leads to this thing. But you can't find that movie anywhere. It's not in print anywhere. You can buy it off of Amazon but it's it's one of those you order it, we'll put it onto a DVD and send it to you. So it's not an official
Interesting
thing. I don't want to buy that like that. Like, that seems weird to me.
So
but,
Amazon can sell piracy, but if you back up your own digital media, that's bad and wrong. That is so strange.
Yeah, well, no one owns the rights to it. I don't think. Like, I think that's the thing about it. Like, no one has the right, or whoever has the rights lapsed, and no one cares. No, there's not enough of demand out there for the movie because no one knows about. I'm like one of like 5 people in the world, I think, that know about this movie.
Well, now, dear friends, you're in on the loop. You know the secret.
But
Be the change you want to see in the world.
It is on Fandango, and I was able to, like, I bought it, digitally so that I can watch it, at least until the point where Fandango goes, hey, we're not going to support this movie anymore.
And they pull the plug.
And then they take it off. And then I've still got the VHS copy, so, which will last forever. Probably.
Or it would if it was a Betamax, but beside the point.
So anyway, that's my rant on streaming services and how angry they make me. But
we are getting to the point though where something does need to change.
There needs to be another evolution in the industry, and this is what I thought was going to happen, and what I'm starting to see happen. It's going to start happening that streaming services are basically like cable, are basically a la carte cable. Mm-hmm. In which you have a parent company that, like a Verizon or a Walmart Plus or something like that, that has a special offer where if you do this, you'll get 3 or 4 streaming services for a lower price than you would if you paid for them all individually. But it will be the ones that are included with ads, so you'll only pay $10 a month for. I think I saw an ad for this that Verizon has, like, you can get Netflix, HBO Max, and one other streaming service for $10 added onto your bill. You get all 3 of those for $10 a month, but it's all of the ad supported versions of it. So you have to watch ads while you're watching TV again. But it's packaged in through Verizon.
Literally exactly what you said, a la carte cable.
Yeah. I mean, and I've said that for a long time.
Bring back Blockbuster.
Yes, I don't know what the next step is in the evolution of entertainment, but like we talked about in our last episode, where something big is going to change at some point soon, and I think that like we've talked about over the last several months, that the amount of money that's being tossed around in the gaming industry is the same as the amount of money that's being thrown around in all of entertainment right now. Mm-hmm. It can't last, right? Like, there's no way that there's that much support out there for it. Something's got to give, and it's going to open, the doors for more indie studios, maybe more, I don't know.
Well, and friends in our Dead Tired Dads community, as we sit here complaining about media, I'm here looking at Josh's DVD collection. I can assure you, this man has nothing to watch. So please, do the good thing. Be the change you want to see. Go harass some companies.
Yes.
I'm lying. There's a lot.
There is a lot. Most of them I probably have watched, 1 or 2 times, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that because you better have seen Stargate more than one time. Oh my gosh. But we all like to have fun our own ways. Some of us like good cinema. Some of us don't like to watch Stargate. But it's the summertime.
Yeah.
A lot of exciting things happen. We got to do fireworks. It's great. There's actually a lot of fun events that are pretty close by, good hiking spots. Something that I personally enjoy each summer is there's a Renaissance fair fairly close. And I don't know if this counts as quarter life crisis. I'm not quite to midlife crisis yet. I need to stay away from these places because every time I go, I end up bringing a weapon home.
Nice.
And eventually they're going to get me with the knickknacks.
Yeah.
Right. I have so far avoided buying a master sword at a Renaissance fair I wouldn't be embarrassed walking out
No,
with that.
absolutely not.
I would
Why
feel the
would you?
shame later.
No.
Like,
There's
why
no
do I
shame
have
in
this
that.
instead of more Zelda?
Fair.
But so we went to the Renaissance Fair. The boys had an absolute blast. They One of them earned the distinction of being the only child in an audience for a Fire Eater show, where he ran towards the fireball, not away, and got a shout out from the stage.
Okay.
Proud parenting moment, let me tell you.
Wow. Okay. Run towards the danger. That one's gonna be the firefighter. I got it.
It's
Look for the helpers.
something else.
Look
Yeah.
for the helpers, as Mr. Rogers used to say.
But yeah, I mean, it was a great time, and yes, I did buy a sword
Nice.
again. But
New swords are fun.
new swords are fun.
I don't own any swords. That's a check mark against me.
It is. We need to get Josh
Someone buy me a
some
sword
popcorn, a sword, so we can sit down and watch Stargate.
anytime.
But I mean, I really enjoy those parts of summer. I don't like the sunshine or the heat or the things that make summer. But I like the events.
Yeah. No, I've never actually been to a Renaissance fair. I've been to the Highland Games, which is a lot of fun, which is a similar experience, but not like
Yeah.
more
More kilts.
Yeah, yeah. And log tossing, or pole tossing, whatever that's called, with giant pieces of wood that they pick up and
Giant men
heave.
throwing giant pieces of wood.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely impressive. Something that I would never do because I would crush my hands, and my face, and probably my body. I would be dead.
yeah. I mean, I'm with you there.
But at one point, I did imagine I was going to learn how to play the bagpipes, because that's one of my favorite instruments in the entire world.
I have so many questions. I'm just gonna not ask.
I love bagpipes; they're great. But I don't have the lung capacity, or I don't feel like developing the lung capacity, I should say, to learn how to play them. 'Cause
Isn't that what the bag's for?
you have to inflate the bag, and you have to keep the bag inflated. Like,
While you're squeezing it.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So you're constantly blowing into the bag to keep it pumped up. Anyway,
We digress.
we do digress. That is something that happens on this show
well-
quite frequently.
While we know that you're happy to come here and listen to us discuss bagpipes and kilts, we know that you're here for other reasons, and we like those other reasons.
Yeah, those other reasons are video game reviews, which we'll just kind of dive into. So, Daniel, what have you been playing?
Oddly enough, I guess it must just be something in the air for the summertime. I've had a lot of free time and a lot of new games enter my life the past 3 months. We picked up Street Fighter collection a little while ago. That ended up being a disaster. Who would have thought that a 2-player fighting game that's really difficult would start actual fights in my house? Many tears were shed,
Oh,
and
no.
not by me.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to set that one aside. I like Street Fighter 2. About 6 of the games on that one are Street Fighter 2 in some capacity. Which, thank you, arcade releases, for being what you are. That's caused some chaos in our household.
That's fun.
I picked some of Josh's particular favorites because I know him so well. So I have done nothing but play tactical, turn-based strategy games. Oh, wait, hold on. It was the other things that...
Yeah, no,
These are not platformers.
Those are the things I hate, Daniel.
Josh despises these games.
That's
actually.
okay. That's okay.
So, in addition to picking up a copy of Fire Emblem Engage from our local library, I also added the game Triangle Strategy to my personal game collection as well. This is another part of the HD 2D. I don't want to call it a revolution. It's kind of flat.
Yeah.
Genre. So stuff like Octopath Traveler 2. I think there are a couple Final Fantasy games that were respawned that way. Of course, this game, Triangle Strategy, and as we got last month with the Nintendo Direct, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 and Dragon Quest 3 are also going to be in this style. it's a lot of fun if you miss the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
If you don't, then people get sick of it. I get it. It is a little gimmicky. Let me just say, this one was a little bit of a trip.
Okay.
And it felt more like a visual novel experience than it did like just a strategy game. Very heavy on the plot, very heavy on weighting player choices. And this was actually a huge complaint that about the game that I really enjoyed. Heavy use of cutscenes. Now, everything's gorgeous. The entire game is just about fully voice acted, which is fun with a 2D game.
Right. That's actually kind of rare.
It's I wouldn't say it's like impossibly challenging, but it keeps things spicy. My favorite thing about this actually was how strange the story was. With it being called Triangle Strategy, of course you have three showing up in important places lots of times. Most importantly, the three nations, and then the three, we'll call them convictions of morality, freedom, or utility. And you have each nation representing one of those things. But these three nations in question are a traditional monarchy, complete with feudalism, a totalitarian dictatorship, and then a theocracy that is a completely socialist state supported by slaves.
Okay.
So all three of them are garbage in some way.
Right.
And the way that the game branches out, you get different chances to encounter different levels of awfulness, and the face that you see of each nation really is determined by the choices that you make, and I think that's kind of fun.
That is cool.
What I found is, regardless of how you feel about things, what your personal convictions are, having some complexity in your games and having choices that matter tends to make it more fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You feel like there's something that you're being that it's costing you.
Well, right. Well, I mean, there's so much about that I feel like oftentimes in media that we get hung up on as like if you're a creator of something, you want it to be a reflection of, well, this would be what would be perfect in my head. Like, absolutely. If this happened, this would be perfect, and everything would be great if everyone would just do what I want. When the reality is that everything there is going to be something that is going to be wrong, and there are going to be unintended consequences in everything that you do, and you're not going to be able to foresee everything. And so one of the pitfalls I see in a lot of media that's coming out right now is you have these people that believe that, like, oh, if everyone would just do this, then everything would be perfect. And so they inject that into their media, and they inject their ideology into the media to the point where it becomes so heavy-handed that it's unenjoyable, and it's so unrealistic, and it's comical.
Well, it's just flat.
Yeah.
When you make flat characters and flat constructions for your society, really you're just making 2-bit propaganda. And let me tell you, there's some really excellent propaganda written. Do better. Do better on the internet. I believe in you that you could write some compelling stuff. Don't just ride the hobby horse into the sunset. But enough about Triangle Strategy. The other title that I picked up was Fire Emblem Engage. Kind of a side piece to the flagship Fire Emblem Three Houses that came out years ago. I'll be honest, the story for this one, completely disappointing, very flat, and it didn't matter. It was this is
such an interesting thing for an RPG, for a story to be flat and for it to not matter.
Yeah.
Like that is a very rare situation, from my understanding.
Like, don't get me wrong, the story was not uninteresting, but the plot holes and the contrived aspects of some of this, gonna leave spoilers out of this. This is something that you find out in the first couple minutes of the game. Throwing in Amnesia, generally lazy writing. But where the story is much less interesting than the Three Houses, the gameplay really shined in this game. And a lot of it has to do with access to what in the game they're called emblems. Fire Emblem series has had a long history of just telling whatever story they wanted, mixing and matching, rewriting, so that there was all these independent universes that have a fire emblem of some kind that doesn't mean anything. It's whatever
it's whatever we want it to be.
Whatever MacGuffin they want. But yeah, you spend the whole game trying to collect these emblems, and they do some very interesting things to the gameplay. Require some additional strategizing on the part of the player, and it was just so much more fun to play, in my opinion, than Fire Emblem Three Houses. And
interesting.
That, like, I was completely uninterested in the story for the game, completely uninterested in the downtime activities, but I just really liked the battles. And I guess for a game that is a turn-based strategy game, that's like kind of the point.
Yeah.
So those are some fun juxtapositions. One that has just an overwhelming, like, ornate, baroque quality to a storytelling, and another one that's like, yeah, I wrote this in middle school, but I really like making games. Honestly, I'd recommend them both. Like, nice. I'd say both games are a solid B+ for entirely opposite reasons.
Nice. That's awesome. So we like to talk about, like, when we're talking about our reviews, we usually kind of come back to, like, how family friendly, like, can you play this in front of your kids? Or is it something that you need to, like, kind of maybe not do that with? Can you take a break from it for, say, 3 to 4 weeks and come back and be able to pick it up and go, like, yeah, I can still play this and I know exactly what's going on and can pick this right back up?
So, interesting that you bring that age-old question up. I did actually try to involve the children with Fire Emblem Engage. I wouldn't be as comfortable playing triangle strategy with children. There's not a whole lot of stuff that's content heavy, but it was written or developed intentionally for adults. It was sure. Like this is for more sophisticated players.
Right.
I mean, specifically because the whole plot revolves around international politics. So
right.
Just right there. But there is tobacco use, alcohol use, suggestive themes, nothing beyond, what you'd see in a T-rated game. But
murder, intrigue, and
there's blood, which again, when you're looking at 32-bit graphics, it's a little underwhelming, shall we say.
Can you ever just be whelmed?
I'm a little whelmed. But with Fire Emblem Engage, we actually divided it up really nicely. Both of these games are single-player games by their nature, but what you can do, where you're controlling multiple players, is kind of the DNA of the game. You can assign roles.
Oh, nice.
So what we did is we played pass the controller.
Okay.
So, like, hey, you get these 3. Hey, you get these 3. Dad's going to play these 2 characters. Let's go.
Nice.
And, obviously that made it more difficult. Trying to negotiate, strategy with children is a little...
that can get hairy.
It got hairy. But the important bit is we had fun.
Yeah. Lost
horribly a couple times. Had some narrow escapes a few other times. But it was really interesting. And a lot of these games focus on adding additional challenge for some more experienced players. If you're an experienced turn-based strategy game player out there, go find some children to play with you. That will frustrate all of your plans and make you have to adapt on the fly like no other. That 100% recommend.
That's a good lesson right there.
Well, and the boys loved it.
Yeah.
Like, they were so excited to, like, be in there to have... And again, the player agency is really important. They had some agency in this space. You can do kind of whatever you want. It can be a bad decision, but you can do it.
You should heal me right now. No, I'm going to attack. No, heal me. No, attack. I'm going to attack.
I admit one of the kids was really disappointed every time he had to wait for a turn, like move and then
Yes.
park it.
Yeah.
Just heartbreaking. But yeah, the other interesting thing about Fire Emblem that as a series is they're very partial to the permadeath of characters. So
Ooh.
like that's how they kind of make the consequences matter. And yeah, we got 2 or 3 levels into this. We'd taken some casualties, and it mattered to the boys. They were a little sad that one of their characters is never going to come back ever.
Yeah, that's tough.
Triangle strategy actually specifically does not have permadeath, so that's another way for, I guess, them to differentiate themselves a little bit in a similar space.
Yeah.
And then as far as picking back up where you left off, I would have an easier time doing this with Fire Emblem than I would with Triangle strategy, just from the standpoint of it's a simpler story, it's kind of more formulaic. Triangle strategy, you'd eventually probably slip into the space you needed to be, but where it is so story heavy, you're missing a lot when you lose the continuity. So I'd say you could do it,
Yeah.
but you're gonna have to get your sea legs back a bit.
Sure.
Fire Emblem Engage, you can pick it up no problem.
Gotcha.
I'm fairly confident of that.
Awesome. Cool. Well, so it sounds like those could be some good RPG type games, turn-based stuff.
If you're into that sort of thing.
If you're into that sort of thing. So I got an actual a little bit of a throwback here. I've been I have several different versions of certain peripherals that I've managed to collect over the years. One such peripheral was pulled out of the closet by one of my children that I was like, man, I really want to play that game now. I should go get my PlayStation 2 and hook it up and play myself some Guitar Hero.
Oh my Lanta.
So here's the story behind it though. So I get the PlayStation 2, get it hooked up to the TV, all of its HD glory, it's set up in there, and start playing it. But there's latency issues between HD and standard TV graphics.
Oh no.
So that becomes a very, and in the I have the first Guitar Hero. That's it. So like that one did not have a option for correcting lag, as later games kind of introduced. So like
this is like the one game that you really can't play very well with lag.
No, you can't. You can't at all. So I was like, okay, I can solve this problem. I have an old CRT TV that I can get. I'm going to pull that out of the closet as well. I'm going to hook that up. I'll just plug it into that. So I get that TV, hook my PlayStation 2 into it, and I don't have a remote for that particular TV. So I can't put it onto the auxiliary input.
Oh no.
So then I had to kind of dig into my memory banks, because growing up, the TV that I had was really, really old, and it didn't even, the only input that it had was a coaxial. So that was the only, like...
What does that even mean?
So, like, all it had was, like, just the coaxial input. So, like, the only thing that you could hook into it were, like, rabbit ears or something like that's what it had, like, a...
Oh, man. Okay, yeah.
So, are you not familiar with coaxials at
No,
all?
I have had devices that have that set up. I just didn't know they had a name.
Yeah, so a coaxial is just that little knob that's on the back of something that you screw into. He's young, people. It's okay. So yeah,
I'm making good use of my highly technical English degree.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so the coaxial, whatever you hook your antenna into, is the coaxial. So I was like, okay, what did I do with that TV? Well, I had VCRs that I hooked into the coaxial, and then I plugged into the RCA jacks onto the onto the VCR, and that's what I used. So turns out I also have an old VCR DVD player. So I came downstairs, got my coaxial cable, got my VCR.
Oh my gosh.
Hooked that into the TV, put that on channel 3 so that it worked on the VCR, and then I hit the thing, and then I got my PlayStation 2 to work on my CRT TV so that I could play Guitar Hero without any lag.
I am so impressed right now that you thought to chain together 4 devices.
Oh no. So something you should know, back when I was in high school, because I'm a retro game collector, I started collecting retro games in high school. I had everything hooked up to this one really old television. I could play any console I wanted at any point in time on this one TV.
This is starting to make some of your hopes and dreams make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had some experience with some wires and some plugs.
Yeah, because it was the only TV I had. We didn't have HDMI cables or anything like that back in the day. It was a lot more complicated than that.
I remember.
But I had, in fact, I had 2 VCRs that were hooked up to each other, so that I could have multiple systems plugged into the RCA jacks in those 2 VCRs, and then I had a RCA switcher.
That is.
Yeah, no, I pulled out all the stops, and then I had this giant chain of coaxial cables, because back a lot of the older consoles had coaxial cables that you'd have the coaxial cable that went into the TV, but then you'd have also another one, like a little box with it, so that you could plug in your antenna to the coaxial, so you could still get, because there's only one coaxial on the television.
Right.
So
it's the one spot there in the back.
Right. So if you want to have your game console hooked up, and also your cable or satellite or antenna hooked up, you had to have another input. So your console had a coaxial that would plug into the TV, and then a little box with another coaxial out that you could hook into whatever else. But you could also daisy chain consoles like that. So you'd have...
wild.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
It was amazing. Anyway, back to Guitar Hero. So I've been playing Guitar Hero a lot lately. And I gotta say, I am so freaking sad that this is a series that died out. I am so upset. I understand why it died out. I get it. There's only so much you can do with it. There's only so many times that you can put out the same game. There's not really any way to do any... Rock Band came out, and that was it. That was all you could do.
I mean, I'd agree with you, but Just Dance has not figured this rule out yet.
Well, but Just Dance anymore, you don't have to have an extra peripheral for, right?
Fair enough.
So, Just Dance, you can release Just Dance for the Switch and say, hey, take off the Joy-Cons and dance with the Joy-Cons, and it will pick up on your movements. Yeah, right. We all know how the Joy-Cons work.
It's all on the wrist, baby.
So, anyway, all that to say, I understand why the series has faltered and why the series died and went away. But I gotta say, just pulling that out and playing it again, it's so much freaking fun. It's just so much fun to play. Mm-hmm. And I've had such a blast, getting back into it. And even after years of not playing it, it comes right back to you.
Like riding a bicycle.
It is just like riding a bicycle. Yeah. I am not as good as I was. I don't want to say that, but I did break several of my high scores. On certain places. So on hard, expert's a challenge for me again. So that's fun. But
I just feel the shame at this point. I will say, I remember when Rock Band and Guitar Hero were very, very popular with the, shall we say, normal human population.
Right.
This was one of the first games that I think really broke some of the barriers between nerd and geek culture and the general population.
Oh, for
because
sure.
like everybody likes music for the most part, and these games are not hard to understand or get the concept of. So they were very popular for just hangout games.
Yeah.
I remember in the band room after school every day, the band director's son, myself, and a couple other kids that just hung out in the music department after school, set up Rock Band in the band room, and we'd
Yeah.
have at it. Like, they were just fun games, and I
Yeah.
feel like they brought people together in a way that, like, no offense, Mario Kart did not.
No. Oh, I mean, because you're all
fewer
playing,
bodies with this one.
Yeah, you're all playing together, right? I don't know, man. Like, it's just so much fun, and I really did actually have a good time, like, going through, like, the process of, like, okay, like, how can I make this work? What can I do to get this to work? Because the things aren't in place. So, like, the problem solving aspect of it, like, took me back to like, the problem solving aspect of it back when I was in high school trying to get everything connected. But, like, Guitar Hero was the reason I bought a PlayStation 2 to begin with. I bought my PlayStation 2 from somebody when I was in high school. Like, someone was selling their PlayStation 2, and I bought it from them because, I needed one for Guitar Hero. And I was a senior in high school when it came out, and that summer I did nothing but play Guitar Hero for a month. Like, I ate and slept and played Guitar Hero. That was it. I've shared that story before. But anyway, I broke it out, and just being able to, go back and try to, my daughter tried to play it a little bit, and it's like, as I was kind of thinking through it and trying to, like, explain to her, like, what she needed to do, it is, like, if you're not used to something like that, it is a bit of a challenge to, like, get into.
It's a very different kind of hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Because it's like, no, you can't watch where it comes in. You have to watch ahead. Like, you have to keep your eyes behind it to know what's coming up.
Because if you're hitting it, then it's too late.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about the timing. You have to know, like, how much time is going to come. So, but that game is honestly, it's weird to say this. It really is, because it's timeless in the fact that there's not ever going to be anything else that's going to come out that's going to do what that game did.
I mean, yeah. I agree with that entirely.
It is just, and it's so, I don't know. There's just something about picking that game up and feeling like, even though like, you're not really playing guitar, like, feeling like you're doing something amazing, right? Like, you feel like you're a rock star playing that game, which is so
Dad,
weird.
am I shredding?
Which is the funny thing about it, though, is I was not a guitarist when I started playing that game in high school. I didn't start playing guitar until after I got married. So I had never really played a lot of Guitar Hero after I started playing guitar, but, like, it actually does really help.
Interesting.
Like, I know that I wasn't. I mean, I was decent at Guitar Hero, but, like, I was not as good at it was not as natural to me to know where I was. I had to think a lot more, I think, when I was playing Guitar Hero previously than I do now. But anyway, so if you played Guitar Hero back in the day, I gotta say, it's an easy game to pick back up, and it really does. You want to talk about a game that you could just play forever. It really is. If you enjoyed it then, you'll enjoy it now.
It's a bicycle. Get on a ride.
And like I said, my kids loved watching it, and my daughter tried to play it. And it is a bit of a challenge for a kid to pick up, but, like, it is possible. Especially with the later ones, I think they had like a no fail mode that you could do, that you could kind of get into it. They don't have that. The first one was a lot more challenging in that way. Yeah. They did not have those kinds of things, but God, I miss it. And what it really does, it makes me want to play Rock Band, but I don't have any, that I don't have. I destroyed my drum set because the drum sets that they came out with were garbage.
He's speaking for himself, I promise. You shouldn't let a real drummer play drums in Rock Band.
Well, no, like they were cheap. I think part of the problem is they expected people to like not be playing, like to not play the drums all the time. But that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, that was stinking fun.
And I was also playing on expert on all of them, and so the drums are actually getting quite a bit of abuse, and so like every single time I had a drum set from Rock Band, it would get broken, especially those pedals.
But tragic.
But that's the thing about it. Like, if you don't have the stuff still, like it's hard. Like those things are actually hard to come by. Like, a Rock Band drum set is actually like really hard to come by.
I bet the prices reflect that.
Yeah, no, for sure. There was actually one point. There was a company that came out with an actual electric kit that was compatible, like an actual electronic drum kit that you could use as electronic drums, but was that they made intentionally to be compatible with Rock Band.
That's kind of genius.
Oh, it was. I almost bought it. But it was, at the time, it was cost prohibitive for me, and also I had nowhere to store it. It was one of those things where it's like, I really want to do this. M was actually, I think I had gotten M on board with me doing it, but I didn't pull the trigger on it because I was like, I don't have anywhere, like, I'm going to get it, and then it's just going to be out all the time. I don't have anywhere to, like, tuck it away and hide it.
I feel like with any kind of drums in a house, there is some investment that needs to be made in like appropriate soundproofing.
Right, but I mean,
like if you just have it in a room and there's nothing, like,
yeah. I mean, electronic kits are not as bad, but I mean they are still electronic kits. But
I mean that makes sense.
It makes a little bit of noise, but not anywhere near as much as an actual kit. But anyway, so Guitar Hero is still the same game that it was back in 2006. Absolutely amazing and tons of fun, and I can't express enough how much I wish that I could, I know they came out with Rock Band 4 a few years ago, and I wish I had bought it then, and I didn't. I hope beyond hope that at some point they'll come out with another Rock Band or another Guitar Hero, and I will 100%. Well, actually, no, not another Guitar Hero, because the last Guitar Hero they released was absolute trash.
I mean, they had a couple stinkers, so
they tried to change the guitar so that it was more complicated, and it's just like just keep it simple, stupid.
You need to Nintendo that bad boy.
Yeah, but I would absolutely love another Rock Band. That I could get a kit, a Rock Band kit, and sigh, things that will never happen. So maybe I might have to just start looking stuff up and try to find one, and I'll find some way to store it. But anyway, that's
I think you had fun.
I did. I had fun, and that's what I'm here for. That's all I care about in a game is it fun? And Guitar Hero for me has always been fun, will always be fun, and I could play it forever, as I've demonstrated multiple times. So, anything else to add for the good of the whole, Daniel?
I think we did the thorough thing. Be careful about your weapons purchases when you're going to strange events. Bagpipes are hard to play, and Guitar Hero rocks.
That's true. And RPGs are fun for some people. I'm just not one of them. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Dead Tired Dads podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you can like, subscribe, follow, share, and do all of the things, because that's what we like to hear and see and do. I do all of the things. Do you? Peer pressure at its finest, people.
I love it. But seriously, if you've enjoyed your time here, we want to hang out with more people just like you. Do all the things.
Do all the things. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Dead Tired Dads podcast.
See ya.
Bye.
I'll see myself out.